Hello, Anacortes. It's Nate Scott from Windermere Real Estate, here to talk to you about the 3 shovel-ready projects that depend on your yes vote for on the affordable housing measure that's on the ballot in your mailboxes now. I'm joined today by Vicki Stosh and Susan Rooks, who are going to tell us about those 3 projects. And if you missed our first video that explains the ballot measure in general, you can catch that in the link below. But first, we're going to start with you, Vicki, and hear a little bit about the 20-unit affordable apartment that is going to be built in conjunction with the Anacortes Family Center.
Many of you are aware that the Anacortes Family Center has had a successful project just launched. In fact, we call it launch, in a 20-unit apartment complex on 27th Street. We have a shovel-ready project just like that, 20 units, on 26th Street. However, this one will have a child care center on the main floor, on the first floor, to accommodate up to 35 children. And as many of you know, child care is a major barrier for lots of families in our community, especially for moms trying to find child care and going to work. This shovel-ready project will be ready to go. It will cost somewhere between $3 and $4 million by the time it's all said and done, and these funds will certainly help the Anacortes Family Center reach that goal. So we hope that you will consider voting yes on this measure.
So Vicki, one question I have is about the child care on the first floor. Is that open to everyone in the community or just to the residents of the apartment?
Oh no, it's open to anybody in the community. And we want it to be that way because we have so many folks that need childcare.
Okay, great. Thank you for telling us about the apartments, Vicki. And next we're going to talk to Susan about 2 projects. One I'm particularly excited about, which is the Olson building at the end of Commercial Avenue. But let's start with the 5 townhomes that the Anacortes Housing Authority is going to build just off of Commercial Avenue. What can you tell us about those?
Last year, the Anacortes Housing Authority bought a 9,000 square foot lot on the corner of 19th and O. And on that lot, we're planning on building 5 3-story townhouses, each about 1,600 square feet. These are intended primarily for working families, just as all 3 projects that this measure is going to fund will be for working families making 60% or less of the median family income for the Anacortes Mount Vernon area. Our units are designed to fit into the neighborhood. There'll be a garage on the first floor so people will not have to park on the street, and 2 units of living floors above. 2 to 3 bedrooms for each unit. The townhouses, the property is located with close proximity to jobs, schools, healthcare. So everything is within walking distance of these houses. So families will not be totally car dependent, which we think is very important. We have made a great effort for the design of the buildings to fit into our neighborhood, the neighborhood where they're going to be built, so that the height is not excessive and the details on these buildings will make reference to other buildings in the neighborhood. Preference is going to be given to people who live in Anacortes or who work in Anacortes, and that is true for all 3 projects that are being built here today. These are also self-sustaining projects. Again, all 3 projects are self-sustaining. We will not need to require additional subsidies to help fund these projects.
Okay, so a couple of the takeaways for me are that the projects are self-sustaining. They're not going to be a drain on city resources. They're going to be sustained by the rents pulled in by them. They're within walking distance to jobs and services. The townhome project is going to have its own parking, and so it won't create parking on the street, and there's not a height issue, which is, as you know, is a hot topic in our community right now. So those are some great takeaways, and the fact that it's income specific. You got to be 60% of the median income or less in order to qualify to live in these places. Now on to the one that I'm really excited about, though. Not that the others aren't fantastic as well, but the Olson Hotel, or the Olson building, I'm sorry, is the third shovel-ready project. And I'm excited about it because I watched the Housing Authority, as you all did, refurbish the Wilson Hotel, and that is a gem in our downtown core. And I think anytime you give a facelift to an older building and make it look new again, but retain its historic character, that's just a fantastic thing for our community. So I'm really excited about that. Susan, tell me about it.
Nate, I love your enthusiasm. That's great. I'm very enthusiastic about this project too. With the Olson building, we're hoping to restore that building to provide commercial units on the bottom, so the existing businesses we hope will remain just as they did at the Wilson Hotel. And we will have probably about 15 units above, single units, studio apartments, and 1-bedroom units. We plan to keep the facade on Commercial and on 3rd Street intact. That's absolutely important in terms of historic tax credits. We've had people from the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation and a structural engineer go through that building very carefully. They feel that it is a doable project, and that's really exciting for us to think of that. The building is on the National Register of Historic Places, so that makes it a really important building for Anacortes. And it is an iconic landmark that is appealing both to residents and tourists. We get a lot of tourist traffic by that building. Again, this is a project that is walkable to downtown, to jobs, and to services, and it is income dependent. So in other words, if you are making 60% or less of the median family income, you can qualify for an apartment here. We will be looking also for tax credits, historic tax credits, and other kinds of funding to help with this project, because this will be a pretty major project to restore this building. And again, this is primarily aimed for families who are working.
Well, thank you, Susan and Vicki, for coming in and talking to me about the 3 shovel-ready projects that would benefit from this tax measure that is on the ballot and in your mailboxes now, Anacortes. One thing we didn't mention is it's critical to pass this now. We've got one shot at this. We can't redo this next year. It's a one-shot deal, so please consider voting yes on this ballot. And again, if you haven't watched the first video that explains the tax measure or the ballot measure, that's on the link in the comments below. Also, if you didn't get your questions answered here and have more questions about this, you can go to the Yes for Housing website, which is also linked below, and get some questions answered there, or contact them for further information. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. We appreciate you, Anacortes. Have a good one.